Hey there, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Ryan, and today I'm joined by...
I'm Ted.
And I'm Dave.
So today we're doing a video about player tips, how every single die roll that you make as a player is a way to characterize the character that you're playing.
For a minute there, I thought we were going to go into a police song.
Oh, every die you roll, every save you make, I'll be slaying you.
Yeah, pretty much. Something like that.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, actually, you guys are very fortunate because on the internet, especially from, you know, the one-shot group, there's a metric ton of
people that illustrate
these examples.
Concept.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Which, I mean, the most sort of, I mean, some of the higher level of that you've seen would be provokers over on Matt Click's A Fistful of Dice channel. How, like, every time that their character is doing something, it's not just I roll a die, it's a description of the way that my character
Well, yeah,
something.
like a great example was I was watching them the other night, and the character Dice is like trying to hide. So he's like, I want to levitate up on the ceiling, you know, and he totally botches his stealth roll. So he's just like a big drop of sweat just falls right down in front of the people that just entered the room.
Yeah, nice.
You know, so is exactly like there, and you know, you can even, if you characterize it right too, you can even do it in a way that doesn't make your character seem like a doof or like he screwed up, just like the circumstances just kind of happened. You know, there was banana peel. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Just something happens.
And the other side of the coin is, you know, depending upon how your DM does stuff, if you say this is what I'm doing, and he likes it enough, he might not even make you make a die roll. He can say, okay.
Well, no. You see. That's why I was just thinking maybe we should tell people what we're really talking about, so Ted knows.
Right. Right. Well, let's tell Ted what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, and personally, this is the way I roll, as it were. But I like to make the check and then let because we play this, the game part of the game is I have these attributes that have a scale and scope. There's numerical pluses or minuses to everything.
Right.
So to let the game happen, I'll drop the check and then I tailor my words or actions to what the dice say. You know,
okay.
like you know, if you roll a 1, that means I've done something horrendous. I've insulted this person terribly. I've slipped on the proverbial banana peel, or literally. Or if I've rolled a 20, then like I've had all the right phrases, or I've hit a vital organ in the creature.
Yeah, like I guess the problem is if you go through this awesome RP piece of role playing, and then you roll, and then your DM is still like roll the die, and you roll horrible. What you just said and did means nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost as if it didn't happen and it was a waste of breath, depending on the dungeon master. Like me personally, you can get away with that because I will customize the DC
based on how you RP.
Yeah, depending on what the player says and what they're doing and how they RP it. Or I may even grant, no matter what they roll, I may grant them a partial success, or or a success with consequences. Because if they did a really good job, you want to reward that. But they rolled a 1 on the die. You absolutely put the arrow through the orc's eye, but it went out the back of his head, bounced off the wall behind it, and it's sticking in your knee.
Right. Yeah. It's just my big problem with that is you've just penalized everybody who's ever taken a social skill when you let RP at the table supersede anybody putting ranks and persuasion and this and that.
That's a whole another topic for a video. So I'm not even going to get into that argument now. So let's just watch that out and get back to.
Well, I mean, it bears some merit. I mean, it does have to do with what we're talking about. Like, if you're gonna, it's true. Like, if we just rely on role playing at the table, you're right. Why would anyone take a social skill? Because they're useless.
Yeah, they really are.
If
RP trumps it.
And then why are you going to role play if your DMs are going to say roll a die anyway? So there needs to be
the center ground.
So I look at it's a role playing game, and role playing happens first. And if a character's got a social skill, another character doesn't, but the character with social skill never talks, then it's kind of pointless.
But you basically, through talking, you've just made, like, if talking is the trump card to everything, you've made charisma a meaningless stat that's basically just fodder for a dump stat for everyone.
I don't disagree.
And not everybody, well, not everybody like plays their charisma, you know, as it were.
But if you rely solely on the die, that means someone who has said something clever in a role-playing game where you're supposed to encourage role-playing, it becomes meaningless.
But we're taking the middle ground.
And that's why he's saying roll the die first, and then you could say something clever, like, you know, you can role play a bad role. I mean, if it's diplomacy, you could say something that offends the king, even though that wasn't your intention.
Or you sneezed in
really well,
or you sneezed into your hand before you went to shake the courtier's hand. Like, you know, like, so I'm just saying that, like, the first letters are RP in an RPG, the last is a G. And so to make it as equitable to, like, everyone playing, like, that means, because if you don't let those social skills play out with the ranks people put into them, then you've pretty much disregarded the social character in favor of the person that's got the 20 strength. You know, all you need is strength and dex if you're saying you can play through.
I utterly disagree. You guys might be, you know, on the other side of the fence, but it's like, if your first reaction in this game is to grab a die and roll it, I think it's failed. It's role playing.
But you're the DM that usually says roll it after they RP it. So
no, not at all. Not at all.
So, you know, like, and it also penalizes the introvert. It penalizes a certain kind of player at the table as well, because they're not as good a role player. They're not an actor. They're not a thespian, and you know.
But maybe they're trying to do that social character.
And in those situations, I will always give them a lower DC. I will always, you know, whatever they say is going to be, you know, better off, because they're stepping out of their comfort zone and they're trying to improve, you know, their role playing. You know, I as a DM, you know, we have people that come to our table, you know, from a variety of different backgrounds and a variety of different sources, and some are excellent role players and some aren't. So as a DM, I'm reaching out to try and get role playing from each of the characters who are more introverted or more, you know, held back in their RP sense with every session. And if that will bring them out of their shell, great. But, you know, when it comes to, you know, an actual check being made, I would much rather, like, not worry about a check. If they say something, you know, good, great. They've succeeded. They've passed without a check being even needed. You know, and that's where, you know, in my opinion, the RP comes first.
I like to do it that way, but at the end of the day, Ryan's absolutely right. It totally negates charisma and charisma-based skills, and you know, and probably other skills as well. If everything can be mitigated to role playing through it, and then the only people that have to rely on those are the people that aren't good at it.
Right. Yeah.
So whether it's intentional or not, it's still
you just incentivize. You've incentivized a certain set of skills. Like, basically, you would always want to take athletics, acrobatics over persuasion and deception, because you're just going to RP through ever having those skills.
I disagree. I think there are some things that should just be, you know, as a DM, like, all right, this is a, you know, this is a set DC, or however you want to look at it, and based on what they say, okay, well, that was done really well, I don't need them to make a check. Whereas, all right, well, this is really challenging. You can give them some kind of credence based on what they said, so their DC drops.
Well, what about the other way then? What about your physical skills? Like, how do you role play? Can you role play that check?
Right. If a guy can really climb real well in real life, do you give him bonus on a roll for his character climbing?
So,
I mean, it's like the same thing, because, like, there's a statistical, like, you know, there's a statistical benefit. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm just trying to level the playing field with that idea. But
we're not gonna agree. We're not gonna agree to disagree. You know, it's what it's got to be. I mean, we've gone through this argument numerous times over months. I mean, we're in a rock solid position, and neither of us are moving.
All right, Nerdarchist. So down below, carry on the debate in the comment section. So, but yeah, that's basically the thing is, when you go to do a thing as your character, it's not necessarily just about doing that action. It's about the way in which you do it. Do you do it confidently, or do you do it timidly?
Oh, absolutely.
You know? So that every little bit of that, and, you know, that's going to change too, from, like, your first level character to your 15th level character. They're going to, you know, they're going to gain that confidence too at a certain level.
Absolutely.
You know, be less cowardly.
So, I mean, you could totally like have a scaled thing of, you know, different maneuvers or different ideas of what, you know, in combat or outside of combat of things that you could do. You know, if you just gained, you know, your proficiency in acrobatics, you're not running and doing flips over top of guys. You know, okay, well, you've got a little bit of skill, but you're not, you know, you're not Jackie Chan. But by the time you're 15th, 20th level, you know, that's the kind of stuff you should be able to do, you know, hands down, you know, with a decent check. So you say, okay, you know, I'm going to do this. You roll the die, as you guys say. You can totally base, you know, how good or how poorly you do based on what the die is.
Well, see, as a DM, I actually do it a little bit different. I generally base my DCs on whether I want the character to do it or not. And what that is based on is how
the likelihood, right? The roll of cool, too. Right?
Yeah, it's the roll of cool. Like, if they describe something that's awesome, I'm like, that would be great to see happen. And then, you know, I let them roll, and I might set the DC as low as a 5, and they have to just not roll a 1.
Right.
You know, and then if they roll a 1, then like they might backflop on the orc, you know, or something.
I mean, on the other hand, too, like, if you're gonna do something that would be a very complex thing to try and do in the game, but you're like, all right, if you make this though, it's going to really pay off. You know, like, so you want to do something like maybe look at that table damage by level or something like that. And you know, and the lethality and everything, because if you do something that was very difficult to do, like a lot of times in the books, it like gives you damage that's worse than what you would do with a weapon, and it's just like, no, they've done a special maneuver, they risked something to do that. Why would they do less damage than if they attacked with their greatsword?
Yeah, well, you know, you might do something where you basically use their weapon damage and add to it or something. But you know, I guess we're getting away too from what this video is really about. This video is about every time you roll the die, that's a chance to turn that die roll, whether it's good or bad, into an opportunity to role play.
Right.
You know, whatever that is.
How does your character deal with the adversity if it's a bad roll?
Or if it's really good, you know, you just scored a 20 and did dropped more dice than a fireball. So you know, what does that look like? Does
your character become overcome with rage, or is he like horrified at the wound he just inflicted to somebody? Like, holy shit, you know? And that's some other factors, some other things to take a look at.
You know, or if, like we said, you know, if you're trying to persuade somebody and you roll a 1 on the die, you know what happens? Why did you
figure out
they're so bad?
You figure out like their anti-motivation, and you went for that somehow. Yeah. Like the thing that wouldn't get them to do the thing you want to do.
You know, basically, you know, maybe you're trying to persuade the king, and you thought of some great deed his brother did, but what you don't know is he hates his brother.
Right.
And you're like recounting. You figured if you regale him with the tale of his brother's great conquest, it'll inspire him to do whatever it is you want to do, right?
But then the brother was always the favorite, and he's
next thing you know, you're in the dungeon.
Right. Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. So
you know, basically, whether you know, irregardless of how you guys want to do that, and I know irregardless is not a word.
He rolled a 1. You rolled a 1 on your persuasion check or your
regardless of how you want to do things. You know, whether you ask for the die roll before or after the role playing, there's an opportunity there. You know, maybe you have your players describe what they're trying to do or what they're going to say, and then you roll the die and you go, well, no, you utterly flubbed it. So what did you really say? Right, that's what you thought, but how did it come out again?
Right, you know, you just stutter, like you're trying to be giving this bold, impassioned speech, and all of a sudden at the podium you're stuttering,
right? So,
and going like an
So in your mind, you give this awesome speech, you know, and you're standing up around the table, you're walking around, you know, you're using your arms and gesturing, and then the DM's like, roll diplomacy or persuasion or whatever, you know, whatever skill you're using for whatever game or edition, and you drop the 1 and it's a complete botch. He's like, well, that's how it went in your head and it was really awesome, but you completely failed. How did it really go? Well, I stand up, I stutter, my face turns bright red, I fart. Yeah.
Well, you go for in your head, you think you're going William Wallace, and then you end up going Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
You translate into the wrong language or all kinds of other interesting things.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think there's room to kind of do it both ways, but at the end of the day, I've seen it where you can, no matter which way you go with the RP, the DM's just going to ask for a die roll anyway. So, you know, at that point, you know, Ryan's way is better. It is, you might as well roll the die first and then role play off of what you're doing. You know, you can convey to the DM what you're trying to do, and if you got a DM that's just going to say roll the die, well, then you might as well roll the die and then do the RP afterwards, because it's going to be a moot point.
It mitigates that whole revisionist sort of the retconning thing.
Or this is what you thought. What did you actually say?
It's like the meme, like the how so such and such sees me, how I see me type of thing. It's like that happening in the game. So yeah, but I mean that's more or less we've hashed out the general concept. You guys can put how you feel in the comments below, which way you tend to go. Do you do the dice first, or do they come last, or do they come not at all?
And let us know if you want to see a steel cage match between Ryan and Nerdarchist Ted over this very issue to the death.
Lucha Librador masks. Lucha Librador masks.
And maybe some midgets. I don't know.
I don't fight without weapons.
All right, well guys, you can like, comment, subscribe,
and you can even patronize us on a good way over on Patreon and help support Nerdarchy.
There's this persuasion check at it, like you rolled a 2 or a 3.
Or you can check us out on nerdarchy.com.
Until next time,
stay nerdy.